like
this is also like part of Year of Luigi too, right? Like
Yes.
that's why Luigi's kind of such a pivotal point in the story. Who remembers Year of Luigi, you guys?
cricket sound in the background.
That's what exactly.
What's funny is though it was the best thing to come out of the Year of Luigi,
Right.
like arguably. That and maybe Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Maybe.
Crickets.
Yeah.
They're back.
Where my Luigi fans at? Come on, guys.
New Super Luigi. Dr. Luigi?
Just kidding.
Anybody? No?
Let's go back to Paper Mario. Super Paper Mario with Mr. L. That's my Luigi.
No, but so Drew. Hey guys, I'm Bill, also known as the Barbecue Games on Instagram.
And I'm Alex, his sister, who brings only chaos.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast, a mostly video game centered podcast.
But half the time, we just talk about anime.
And that collecting thing, well, that's mostly just an implication at best.
So come along and enjoy us on this adventure
as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, how you been?
Hi. I've been good. This is round 2.
So we're gonna cut the BS this time and just introduce our guest. How you doing, bud?
Hey, so my name's Kevin, aka Shnickerman. I've been a big fan of this podcast for a long time. Met Bill through Instagram like years and years ago at this point. I don't know how many years ago it was. Had him on my podcast as well, and I'm just happy to be here. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I'm excited to get the view from the other side. So
nice. So
I'm happy to have you.
Yep. So I guess we'll just include you in it this time.
Yes.
How have you been?
How have you been?
Pretty good today. Went apple picking earlier in the day.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Got some apple cider donuts. Ate a bunch of those.
Good choice.
So yeah, can't complain. It's pretty good over here.
Yeah, we just went grocery shopping and went for a walk around our condominium complex.
And we got coffee and we used the patio for the first time.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a relaxing morning.
Yeah.
Just enjoying our Sunday before we have to go back to the golf ball factory.
Oh yeah.
Back to the grind of work.
Yeah. Back to golf balls.
Yeah. So I guess before we cut into our topic, do you want to discuss your podcast a little bit, or?
Sure. Yeah. So my podcast is Gaming with Passion, and the original idea was basically, there's a lot of negativity with gaming, and I just kind of wanted to create something that was more positive, much like this podcast. And I just wanted to focus on some friends of mine that I wanted to always make the podcast around something that they were either really interested in or I was really interested in, so we could have kind of a higher level conversation. So we had a few episodes of that, but I think it's going to change probably a little bit because I ran out of people to invite. So, but yeah, I just celebrating games that people like a lot. So that's my podcast, and yeah.
Nice.
So
for this podcast, this is actually kind of a follow-up to the episode I did on Kevin's podcast where we talked about the Mario and Luigi series for a little bit. So in a roundabout way, we're actually going to talk about the overall Mario RPG series in general.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I guess the best place to start would be going all the way back to the very early days. And I guess the earliest incarnation would be Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Yep.
And Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars is very fascinating because it was actually, in a lot of ways, it was a follow-up to another title called Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which was originally an RPG that was designed to appeal to the American audience, because this was still during the era of when RPGs were still a very niche genre at the time, and they really hadn't taken off in the outside of Japan. And Mystic Quest, the problem with Mystic Quest was it was the most dumbed down, it was too easy for its own good.
Oh no. Like Pokemon nowadays?
It's even easier than Pokemon.
Yeah.
You can't lose for Mario.
Oh,
Mystic
wow.
Quest. The game holds your hand the entire time.
Oh no.
It's almost insulting how easy it is. Um, it does have a phenomenal soundtrack, though. Like the soundtrack is way better than the game deserves.
Hmm.
But anyway, so I guess moving on then, Square decided to give it another shot, and their actual what they eventually came up with was doing a after talking with Shigeru Miyamoto, they came up with an idea to do a Mario RPG. And the funniest thing about it was the development of Mario RPG was really fascinating because you had like originally like Square pitched like the idea of like Mario using like a sword and riding a horse or something,
I
which
can't imagine that.
which to me is like I'd actually kind of like that because that'd be kind of funny. But
The memes.
yeah, kind of. But Miyamoto rightfully would question this and was like, "That doesn't seem very Mario." And he proposed the whole idea of how about he use like hammers and like fireballs and like shells and stuff. So Mario RPG is interesting because it uses this really, for the time, unique like isometric like graphical style, and it had a very like dark storyline for the time, especially for like a Mario game. Now,
Yeah.
what was your first like opinion, like first experience with Mario RPG?
Yeah, so for me, you know, I didn't even have a Super Nintendo. I didn't really have very many video games until like PlayStation era ish. So I always heard about it when I was a kid, and then as I got older and I got like into game collecting and everything, that was always the game like I wanted to get. But even at that time, it was still hard to find and a little bit more expensive, so I never got it. So uh, basically, how I ended up playing it was finally the Super Nintendo Classic. So a few years ago, I was like, I need to play this game. Got through it, and it's a fantastic game. It holds up really, really well, I would say as well.
It does. I do think it's a little overrated at times. Like,
Yeah,
it's, I mean, especially when we get to later games that I think are superior in the series. But Legend of the Seven Stars is pretty fascinating. It does have some pretty interesting, like quirky characters, and
yeah,
the soundtrack's phenomenal. It was like the first Mario game Yoko Shinomura did.
yeah. The soundtrack is really good, but like you said, I think it really just set like a really solid groundwork, and obviously inspired two Mario RPG series. So, like, it's definitely one to look back on and be like, this is where it all started.
Yeah, and it's cool because it really brought a lot of like interesting ideas, like the whole even just for RPGs in general, because it actually did do what it set off to accomplish. Like it was the first real RPG to like succeed in the U.S. at the time. Not to the same level as what Final Fantasy VII would do, but it was the first that was really like on the radar of like even like the casual RPG fan. And it did have that distinct Square feel, even though it doesn't really play like a Final Fantasy game, like some people like to make the comment it does.
Yeah, I
It
think they
really,
took a really like smart move of like you said, differentiating enough, and that will be seen for the rest of the Mario RPGs as well. They definitely like Nintendo-ize it a little bit and like keep it Mario, which is really cool.
especially like by incorporating minor like platforming elements and
Right.
that it was the first game that really introduced that whole like completely out there like Mario sense of humor. Like I always remember like Bowser in particular was notable for it was the first time they really gave Bowser a personality in the series, which would become
Yeah.
a running theme with like the Mario RPGs. Uh, he had like this weird like haiku thing where he was always talking in haikus for some reason,
Hmm.
which was pretty funny.
Yeah, I like to see actually. Well, we'll get to it, but Bowser story stuff. You know, he doesn't get enough love, I don't think. But
Mm. And like characters like Princess Peach are actually useful in a game.
Was this the
Doesn't
first
get
time she was like a playable character, like in the Mario
Uh,
series?
no,
Mario 2, right?
Mario 2 was the
Oh,
first time.
Yeah.
forgot.
This was the first. I guess not. Yeah, Mario 2 was definitely the first time. This was probably the second time she was really useful in a game.
And you actually get story like behind her. It's not just like Mario 2, right? So
Yeah, like there's the booster tower scene with the famous wedding thing, and then you can see Mario and Bowser kiss, which is great.
No. Damn.
Uh, yeah, that was an
My
interesting-
favorite. That's my favorite Mario shit, Bill. How'd you know? Just kidding.
don't Google that one.
Your face.
No,
Too late. I already did. No, just kidding.
So then moving on from so Mario RPG was like a phenomenal game, and there was immediately plans for a sequel, but a lot of people know in the transition from Super Nintendo to N64, Nintendo infamously had a falling out with SquareSoft at the time, particularly based around the cartridges versus the compact disc media, because SquareSoft just could not do what they wanted to do on a cartridge-based system, and they famously jumped ship over to PlayStation, where they would release Final Fantasy VII and basically change RPGs forever. So Nintendo then decided to shift production over to one of their in-house studios known as Intelligent Systems, who had been for years they had been like Nintendo's like kind of like R&D studio. They would like make all sorts of hardware and like do all sorts of like special projects. But they also were notable for developing a little known at the time series known as Fire Emblem and the Wars Nintendo Wars series at the time, now known as Advance Wars. But during the production, they ended up not being able to use the Mario RPG name because Squaresoft co-owned the rights to it. So they weren't able to like incorporate anything that Square partially owned, and they had to change everything over to this new idea. So what they did was they changed Mario's design to like this flat, almost in a way paper-like design, and the basis of what would become Paper Mario was born.
Yes.
Now, do you remember like the first like initial like trailers for like Paper Mario?
I don't, but I'm assuming it was. I don't know. You should just let me know.
Just tell me.
Just tell me, please.
So obviously we were both PlayStation people growing up, I guess.
Yeah.
So we really didn't have an N64 at the time of its launch. But Paper Mario was fascinating because so what's interesting about it is the N64 was very well known. It was not an RPG heavy console by any means. Like it had 5, maybe 6 RPGs on it, depending on your definition of an RPG. And all of them were very hit or miss. Like I don't think anyone really remembers Quest 64 other than being Quest 64.
Right.
And like the only other major one was Ogre Battle. So Paper Mario was like the first major RPG on the system, and it was notable for its distinct graphical style because it incorporated 3D graphics with these paper thin character models that would kind of flip back and forth when you walked around. And they ended up taking that idea and making it a character gimmick where they would have this like overarching like paper gimmick. Like in early cutscenes, there'd be jokes where like characters would be like scotch taped on the screen. Mario, whenever he falls, would like fall down like paper.
Yeah, definitely super self-aware and really cool.
And it had this really like unique like overall like sense of humor and like just design. And it really stood out, like especially compared to like Mario RPG. Even though in like reality there is a lot of Mario RPG like designs in this game when you really look at it. And I actually think the paper aspect was actually more of an American thing because the game is actually in Japan known as Mario Story.
Interesting.
I think the paper thing was later added after looking at the graphical style. So Paper Mario is interesting because it uses a lot of the same ideas that Mario RPG installed. Like it's a turn-based RPG. It incorporates that platforming aspect to the gameplay, but it has more of a focus on like exploration and puzzle solving at the same time. Because in a lot of like the stages you'd have to like solve these puzzles to get around, and then they'd get even more progressively like expansive as the series would go on. But the first game was more to the tame side. The story was pretty fascinating because it involved like Bowser literally kidnapping Princess Peach's castle like straight out of the ground, which they would then reuse for Mario Galaxy years later. And it has one of like another great like Bowser where he's like this he's actually a pretty sinister like villain for the time. Like because his actual plan does work. Like he actually does steal the Star Rod, which I think was lifted from Kirby. And
Funny.
He defeats Mario. Like the first boss is Bowser, and it's one of those like classic like unbeatable boss fights.
Yeah,
Where
we
like,
talked about that last time for sure.
yeah, you just you can't win no matter what.
It's the worst feeling.
It is. It was also a very late N64 game. Like this was like one of like I think the last few released for the system.
For good reason.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Alex
I
hates
wanted
the.
to I wanted to say too, like, have you played Quest 64? It's like I think it was a pretty smart move to do what they did with an RPG because the N64 is so kind of like um challenged with time with all these polygons and like moving through space, and it doesn't age very well, whereas
No,
something like Paper Mario is like so classic now, and you can go back and play it and it's basically like you'll still enjoy playing it, you know what I mean?
it holds
So,
up very well. Like
right.
it really did. What's funny about Quest 64, just to get off topic a little, there was actually a Game Boy Color demake of it, which is like 10 times better.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called Quest Brian's Journey, and it's literally the same game, just it's a 2D traditional RPG.
And it's better because it's 2D, right? You don't have to
It's
worry
2D
about
and
all the nonsense.
it's 2D and it's not trying to do more than it's capable of. As sad as that is. So then, following the release of Paper Mario, then so at this point, obviously, Mario Legend of the Seven Stars can't go any farther with that. The Square has the rights to it sealed off, and Square and Nintendo at this point were still not on friendly terms. So Paper Mario was started as kind of an alternative. Then we get into the third series that everyone remembers. So another company comes into the ring known as Alpha Dream. Alpha
Yep.
Dream is actually founded by former Square employees who worked on Mario RPG.
Hmm.
And we get what would eventually become Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga for the Game Boy Advance. And during this time, we got a kind of cool dynamic where Paper Mario would be the console Mario RPG, and then Mario and Luigi would be the handheld Mario RPG series, which I think was kind of nice because you could get like the best of both worlds in a sense.
Do you know if that was like, I mean, because obviously the both series split off, so was it a choice by Nintendo to basically do that and keep one handheld and one console based?
I'm not really sure. I think it might just be because Alpha Dream had more experience with the handhelds at the time.
Yeah. Because
Because
I
they're
always thought it was weird, but
yeah.
I think you're right. Maybe they just realized like there's a market for stuff over here and there's a market for stuff over here. We can do both and get the best of both worlds.
I think it was also a case of like Paper Mario was made by one of Nintendo's in-house studios and had like their full budget, and then Mario and Luigi was made by a second-party studio, so they were just kind of like being observed more than anything.
Mm. Yeah, I do it on our handheld. Just have fun over there. We don't.
Yeah, go make one of the most iconic games
Yeah.
of the 2000s.
Well, exactly.
It's funny though because like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga kind of came out of nowhere at the time. I actually missed it the first time around because I think I had said previously I played Partners in Time first.
Right.
Yep.
But I remember seeing it everywhere because the commercials for the time were like unmistakable because this is before Nintendo's commercial style changed to like the Wii stuff, and they had like these really surreal commercials for a while.
Yeah.
And the Superstar Saga one was always like it was like these two kids basically cosplaying as Mario and Luigi playing in their backyard. I always remember that being like. I always remember seeing that and being like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, Google it if you don't know it because it's really funny.
Yeah. And what's really funny about it is like those like sprites from the GBA were like probably some of the most iconic Mario sprites of all time. Like I think like every Newgrounds animation back in the day like used those sprites for everything.
I think
it was
you're right.
And what was interesting was there was no original Mario games on the Game Boy Advance. Which kind of made like Superstar Saga really stick out for the time. And so comparing, this is like one of the biggest like weird arguments I've seen in the Nintendo fandom lately, is Paper Mario fans versus Mario and Luigi fans. I don't understand personally why there's such a beef. I think a lot of it has to do with the Paper Mario.
Why not both, right? I mean, there's no reason you can't play both.
I think a lot of it has to do with the sharp decline that Paper Mario had in its later years, and the general consistency of Mario and Luigi. But like, there's like this.
They're not even existent anymore. So I mean, Paper Mario fans, they at least got a game recently. So
yeah. What's funny though is Superstar Saga, like the Mario and Luigi series, mechanically is both similar and also very different from Paper Mario. So Paper Mario is more about like puzzle solving and combat. Mario and Luigi was more based around the combat was the puzzle solving in a sense.
Mm.
So Paper Mario was a pretty standard. It actually lifted a lot of combat mechanics from Mario RPG, where you'd have the context sensitive like button commands that you do at certain times during combat to get extra damage, and it was a strictly Mario with one partner versus whatever enemies were on the other screen. Now, Mario and Luigi, on the other hand, was interesting because you'd play as both Mario and Luigi at all times. And the gimmick was one button would control Mario and the other button would control Luigi. And during combat, theoretically, if you were good enough, you would never take a hit. Because the entire combat system is based around dodging and counterattacking.
That doesn't happen whenever I play.
I don't know how they designed that either. Like the R&D people must have just been like started looking at like people's reaction times, and like I'm telling you, because it's like, especially in the beginning of the game, it's easier to dodge. Later in the game, it's harder to dodge, kind of, you know.
Especially when they start getting more creative with their context clues, like the colored text, or sometimes they'll trick you and reverse the text on you. Like it'll say red, but it'll be colored green, just to trick you.
Yeah.
And I think this was like the peak of like Mario comedy in terms of like writing, because the Mario and Luigi series to me is the funniest of the three RPGs.
Yeah, and I want to say too, I feel like Paper Mario is like, it's not as serious as normal Mario, but like Mario and Luigi's kind of another step beyond that into more kind of wacky. And also like, at least for the first game, for Superstar Saga, like the universe that it's in even kind of feels like it's an alternative universe, right? Whereas obviously Paper Mario, because he's paper, but like they kind of got rid of some of the normal characters and introduced some different characters, which I liked. So
the the Mario and Luigi universe always felt the most alive to me,
right?
Because like the whole gimmick with Superstar Saga was you're not in the Mushroom Kingdom, you're in another kingdom entirely. And like, to me, still one of the funniest things that I still do every time I replay the game is that opening scene where you're just walking around Toad Town, and you have like you're searching for items for the to start your quest. One of the things you can do is there's one of Bowser's Koopa Troopas is like lost in the town square, and you can give him directions on which way to go.
Yeah.
And the options are either you can tell him which way to go, you can tell him the complete wrong way to go, or you can make him run into the wall repeatedly. And as a child, I just made him run into the wall repeatedly because I thought it was funny. He just keep doing it, and I'd be like, "Yep, I'm mature." But it's little cool world building things like that really make you like appreciate the design. And what's funny is transitioning then over to the next entry in the Paper Mario series, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Often, it's debatable. Like, I have a different opinion, but arguably considered probably the best Mario RPG ever made by a lot of people.
But yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say because I have a strong contender for the best that we'll be getting to later. But Thousand-Year Door really is, in a lot of ways, like the peak of what the Paper Mario series would be, because they darken the story quite a bit, like compared to like the original, and you now explore this entirely new world separate from the Mushroom Kingdom, which I thought was kind of taking a cue from Mario and Luigi at the same time, because now you're in this like rogue town that's like completely not the Mushroom Kingdom at all.
Yep.
And there's literally a noose hanging in the middle of the town at one point.
That's like your first shot of the town, isn't it? Like really? Peach walks up and she's just like, "Oh, nice noose here, I guess."
Yeah. And then there's like I think there's like a chalk outline somewhere in the.
Oh my gosh!
If you explore.
And aren't like the people around mean like to you? Like they aren't even nice to you.
Well, yeah, there's the mission where like you their way of roadblocking you from moving on is there's like this older woman looking for her contact, and it's like if you do anything, you'll immediately break the contact because it's It's to keep you from progressing farther through the town until you do a mission. Well, the next until you do the next quest in the game. But my favorite thing is like you can either just like move and it will break, or you can do what I like to do and do a ground pound into the ground. You can. But there's like stuff like that, and then like one of my favorite recurring things in that game is like Luigi's Tales in the Waffle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Classic.
Where you can just run into Luigi throughout the game, and he's constantly giving his like very exaggerated tales of his quest that's going on at the same time. And the best part is he'll give his exaggerated tale, and then you'll cut to his party member that he has with him at the time, who gives their take on the tale, and their take is always like, "Don't listen to this guy; he's full of shit."
Oh my god.
He literally is causing all of our problems.
Oh no.
Like there's one of them, it's like a blooper, but he's like cooked to like golden brown because Luigi knocked him in a volcano.
Oh no.
That's pretty warped. I don't know.
It really is. Like,
yeah.
That game had a fun sense of humor, I will say. It also has a massive variety of different like level themes. Like you get obviously like the classic like the grassland level, but then you also get like there's like an entire level that's based around like a WWE wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Which is actually one of the coolest because it also has like a mystery element to it, like where you have to like do all like the backroom stuff. There's also the ghost town, which is probably the most iconic level where Mario literally loses his like he loses his identity for a while, and you have like an identity crisis, which is interesting. All the one thing I will say, A Thousand Year Door really did well was the party members, because every one of them is super fleshed out and has like their own unique like characters that build off of Mario, who is still a silent protagonist in the series.
Yeah, and I think that's also another thing, right, that kind of sets the two series apart as well, is like you get the whole slew of characters with their own identities other than Mario and Luigi. So
well, Luigi has a personality in Paper Mario. Because for some reason for some odd reason Luigi can talk but Mario can't. Because Mario still talks in like pantomime for whatever reason.
Yep.
And then like another fun thing is like in between acts, you get like what's going on with Peach, where she's like hanging out around the X-Naut base, where and she's talking with the computer that has the hots for her the whole time.
Isn't at one point she like takes a shower and that's like part of the game? I remember seeing a picture of that and I was like, what the heck is going on?
There's also like Peach has to like disguise herself as an X-Naut in like one of their costumes, which is funny. She infiltrates the thing, like it's all very funny stuff. And then there's Bowser's like side quest where he's constantly trying to find the same things Mario is,
but he's like 2 steps behind.
Yeah, always a step behind, and he like shows up. He shows up like at like in the wrestling arena after everything's already happened, and he completely just misses the boat on that. It's another great like Bowser moment where they just kind of made him like the incompetent fool. Which was nice, even though he does show up right at the end for an obligatory boss fight where you then beat him.
Yeah.
But then moving on, then we get Paper Mario. No, not Paper Mario. You get Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. Partners in Time is interesting because it's like the black sheep of the Mario and Luigi series in a lot of ways. Because it was oddly dark, especially for like the Mario and Luigi series. Like, because it was literally like aliens are invading and basically killing everyone in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah.
It was super linear and it incorporated like time travel mechanics and stuff.
And it had the babies.
Yes, the babies.
Most importantly, it had the babies.
Even more important, it had baby Princess Peach, the most annoying thing ever created.
Oh boy. Wasn't she crying most of the time?
She cries a lot, and it's very annoying.
I think like the funny thing too is that it's like, for whatever reason, even when Bowser's a baby, he's still trying to go after Princess Peach, which is just a little bit weird when you think about it.
Yeah,
because it's like, what's the deal with that, you know?
Yeah, that's like always been a really weird character dynamic. It also like questions the well, then again, it's the Mario and Luigi universe, so it's a different universe. Because I always was like, this confuses me on their dynamics. Because aren't they from like Brooklyn or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
But then I think, oh right, it's a different universe. In the greater Mario canon, as they say.
The Mario canon.
But Partners in Time was interesting because a lot of people saw it as like a massive step down from
Hmm.
Superstar Saga, which is funny because as someone who played Partners in Time before Superstar Saga, I found it really funny how much of like a step forward it felt rather than a step back. It was funny. The first game felt more advanced than the second game in a lot of ways, but Partners in Time was still a decent game. Like it's not like a bad game by any means. It's just different, and it's a unfortunate. It has the unfortunate like luck of being stuck between two phenomenal games.
Right.
But then moving on, now we get to like probably one of the most controversial Mario RPGs of all time, Super Paper Mario. Now I know Alex has like a lot of experience with Super Paper Mario.
Yeah, that
I
was
was
the
gonna
one I
ask
had.
why is it controversial? Because I don't even know why.
So Super Paper Mario was interesting because it was originally a GameCube title that was half like kind of half-heartedly ported to the Wii right for the Wii's launch.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't do much to incorporate the Wii into its like gameplay. Like the only real Wii mechanic is like you can point
Find the butterfly.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
or like with the Wiimote.
you can point the Wiimote at the screen to use this like pointer mechanic to find hidden items, which probably was another mechanic in the original game that they just kind of retconned out.
Mm.
What makes it controversial though is they changed the gameplay significantly.
Yeah.
Rather than an open-ended like explorative turn-based RPG, it's now a side scroller.
Ah.
And it's like an action RPG where like you jump on the enemies to do damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what were you gonna say, Alex?
Oh, I was gonna say it's not really those like what's the word? Like cinematic battles where it's like
Yeah.
everything changes. It's like you just kind of keep battling as you're playing.
Well, one of the fun things about like Thousand Year Door was all if you actually pay attention really closely, all of the battles are literally like a stage set
Mm.
where you're literally on a an actual like it's supposed to be like a play, like the because there's like an audience watching the play at the same time, and like you do like all these like flair like tricks and stuff to get like more like star points faster filled up,
Yeah.
which was a
Can
kind
the
of
enemies like throw stuff at you too?
yeah. There's people in the audience that can throw rocks at you that you have to watch out for. The background sets will occasionally fall and damage you if you're not paying attention. There's a point where the first boss in the game, Hooktail, literally eats the freaking audience,
Violence.
which is like, wow, that's dark.
Yeah.
But going back to Super Paper Mario now, Super Paper Mario was weird because it's the game itself is fine. It's a little repetitive. It's more of a platformer than an RPG in a lot of ways. The gameplay, the combat is extremely repetitive. The gameplay is fine enough. What makes it stand out though is it has by far the best storyline in a Mario RPG.
Hmm.
Like it has this whole like complex like storyline involving these two characters and from like the past who
Like
were,
it's a love story, which is so like
there's there's a tragic love story like in the background, and it's basically this guy whose heart was so broken that he literally wants to destroy the entire universe by creating like a negative like black heart by getting Princess Peach and Bowser to marry each other. The game literally opens with Bowser and Peach at a wedding,
Yeah.
and like it's like wait, what's happening here? And then Luigi shows up, and Luigi is oddly heroic in the game for some reason.
Yeah.
Like he's like super brave and like ready to go into action, which is like extremely out of character for him. But he ends up causing the black like chaos heart to be created, which starts off the story. It basically kicks off the events of the game, and the whole plot is you're basically going through these different worlds to get these pure hearts to stop this void from basically consuming all of reality.
Wow.
And there's like a redemption plot. We get one of the greatest like Luigi storylines of all time because Luigi gets like an evil alter ego called Mr. L, which I'm convinced a common fan theory is that it's not actually an alter ego. This is just Luigi's true inner personality. He's finally getting revenge.
Yeah.
I know you said it's like the kind of the most controversially bad one, but just when you're explaining the story, I mean, that just makes me want to play it more. It's like, besides the gameplay, it's like, I'll give it a shot just for that. I mean, that sounds awesome.
So
Yeah,
I
I
wouldn't say
don't
it.
think it's like controversially bad. I think it's controversially different
Yeah,
from the rest of the
because
series.
in hindsight, people have warmed up to it considerably. But I
Mm,
know when it first came out, it was like people were not happy with it at all.
mm.
But
What made it change?
it has so much originality. You can play as Peach, Bowser, and Luigi in this one. Like I think it's like the first Mario RPG where you don't play as just Mario for the majority of gameplay.
Nice.
And there's also a dating simulator in
Oh,
Are you kidding me?
there's an entire level that's like a
Um,
parody of like nerd culture, and like there's a point where like Peach is the final boss is like this chameleon who's like the stereotypical geek, and his whole gimmick is he's like obsessed with Princess Peach, and it's like a dating like simulator thing, and then
oh
Peach
my
just
god.
fucking like ends up just kicking his ass after, which is great.
That's
It's
awesome.
honestly the game itself, aside from the gameplay being very different,
Mm.
it's freaking really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like there's so much awesome stuff behind it. The story alone is worth a play.
yeah.
The music's phenomenal. The graphics are great.
That's one thing I think too. I think the music in that game is really good, and I don't think it gets a lot of praise. But there
The,
is some really good music.
the Paper Mario series in general has really good music, which is something you can also say about the Mario and Luigi series because
Mm,
Yoko Shinomura came over from like Mario RPG and continued to do the series over there as well. And she always had that really bouncy, like high energy music, like in every composition she's ever really done.
mm.
And Paper Mario has a more interesting like shift because Paper Mario has more of like a bombastic style of soundtrack,
Mm,
which I think it fits the graphical style it's going for.
right.
What's funny about Super Paper Mario 2 is like it also has a lot of like subverted expectation levels. Like the second level of the game is pretty unique because literally at one point you break a vase and you're stuck in debt for an entire chapter and you have to like pay back your debt by working in a sweatshop.
Yeah,
Oh my, really?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
Oh
it's like,
no.
don't they like electrocute you? Like if one of the tasks is you have to jump, and it
so,
will like electrocute you if you don't jump in time.
Oh
so
my
to pay
god.
off your debt you have to get these like rubies, and to earn rubies you have to like generate electricity in the power plant. So what you do is you basically have to jump repeatedly on this electric block. Meanwhile, there's a spark on the floor below you that you have to dodge while you're doing it, so you can't just like mindlessly hit the A button. And what's funny is this takes forever.
Mm,
Like there's no the to physically actually like pay off the debt that way. I don't even think it's possible. Like it would take way too long.
mm.
And I think, well, because of how you actually have to do it, I think the game's programming would actually break if you actually sat there and made the money that way.
I wonder if there's a clip out there of someone who tried.
I'd have to look into that because I'm actually really fascinated now. But the trick is this whole level is like a giant puzzle, and like you have to use problem solving to figure because the main gimmick of Super Paper Mario is Mario has the ability to flip dimensions.
Mm,
So you can hit the A button and Mario can flip into 3D, and then it
Mm,
changes the entire level from 2D to 3D. So you get a complete different perspective of everything you see, and sometimes it like unveils secrets that you didn't know were actually there.
hmm.
So to actually to get through the game, this particular stage, you have to like find one of the other inmates who will give you the secret code to the VIP room, and then the VIP room, instead of jumping on a block, you have to run in a hamster wheel.
Nuh.
But you make twice as many rubies by doing this. And then what you do is you make enough in there that you can find another guy who will like give you the passcode to the secret vault that has literally the exact number that you need.
Mm.
So it's like, are you still running into enemies when you're doing all this stuff, or like, how does it work as far as that? Since it's more like action platformer.
So the enemies are just kind of standard like enemies you'll see on the screen. There's no random encounters or anything. And it's essentially how you defeat them is you just jump on them and they have like a set amount of hit points. Once they're out of hit points, they just die.
Gotcha.
It's like a Mario platformer with like basically the enemies have multiple hits,
Hmm.
but so does Mario. Um,
It's interesting. Like, why do you think that this is like a overarching pattern? Like, why do you think they're more willing to make like Mario RPGs so much darker compared to like mainline Mario?
I think because at that time, anyways, Miyamoto wasn't super involved.
Hmm.
And when Miyamoto really isn't paying attention, like you can run wild with this stuff. So I think they just wanted to like experiment with it and try something new.
Yeah.
Because the Mario RPG storylines up to this point have been like it's stuff that like would scare Miyamoto.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, and it's like they're significantly darker than any other Mario game. Like both of the series, I would even say.
They really are, but for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Because then next we get so this is what I would say is the greatest Mario RPG of all time. We get Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, which I think isn't your opinion the same? Like you think it's probably
Yeah. That's why I invited you on my podcast because it's not like I ask everybody that question, but I think one time you posted on your Instagram and said this is my favorite Mario RPG, and I was like, it's my favorite Mario RPG. So yeah, we agree on that for sure.
It's essentially what Bowser's Inside Story is it's everything that Superstar Saga did, but better, and it takes the best ideas from Partners in Time and makes them better. Like mechanically, it's probably the best one in the series, story wise, and also the biggest key thing was you play as Bowser in the game, because honestly, it's more of a Bowser game than it is a Mario and Luigi game.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think the name tells you that too, right?
Yeah.
Bowser's Inside Story.
So I guess to go into that, the whole gimmick of the game is it's basically like the rest of the Mario and Luigi series. You play as Mario and Luigi, and then Bowser as a third character. And the gimmick is Bowser actually has inhaled the Mario Brothers, and they're inside of his body.
We're not going to talk about that part. Why he inhaled them, I don't know.
We're not going to talk about the logistic
right.
But essentially, you have two different like gameplay worlds, and what happens is basically the Mario Brothers will be traversing through 2D levels. So they kind of took that whole 2D gameplay idea from Super Paper Mario, went inside Bowser, and then on the outside, like the overworld, then you're in full 3D. And the whole gimmick is like Bowser will be going across the the overworld, and he'll run into an obstacle that he can't like get past. So then you have to, as the Mario Brothers, you have to like manipulate something within his body to essentially like, either make him stronger or like affect his like sense of smell or help him eat something faster.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing that makes the story interesting and also makes the gameplay more interesting because you feel like the things you're doing actually have purpose, right? Sometimes RPGs you just feel like I'm going here and then I'm going there to talk to this person and then I'm going here, you know.
What's funny too is the storyline, like the character dynamics between Bowser and then the Mario Brothers. Like there's certain characters that Bowser will talk to on the overworld and they'll be like super friendly with him. And then later on when you actually get out of like Bowser's stomach and you're allowed to walk around the overworld as the Mario Brothers, you talk to those same characters as the Mario Brothers and they want nothing to do with them. Yeah. Like particularly the French the block salesman. Like he hates the Mario Brothers for some reason. I guess because like, you know, they're always jumping on blocks and stuff.
Yeah, they don't like blocks and he's a block, so
there's stuff like
people. That's his people.
Yeah. And then another cool gimmick is like in combat, because Bowser has like that inhalation ability. During certain fights, he can like inhale enemies off the screen, and then it will cut into inside where the Mario Brothers can fight them with their abilities, while Bowser fights the bigger enemy on the outside, which is kind of cool. Like it adds a lot more depth to the overall combat system, especially considering the two have very different combat styles. But both are able to dodge like every hit the same exact way, just with different abilities.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like you're playing two separate games, but they found a way to mesh them together in a really, really unique way story wise. So
very seamless,
right?
And this game also has a pretty dark storyline as well, because like it's literally about this like disease that's like causing toads to like basically balloon up into these like giant blobs.
We're not going to talk about that either, but that's the thing.
Yeah, like stuff like that, and like you're on this like you have to find this like cure to save everybody, but then you like uncover this ancient evil. Like it's really dark for no reason. They really like to experiment with the idea of fusing Bowser with random things in the series for no reason. Yeah. Like the final boss of the first game was Cackletta, which is like one of the most disturbing things in Mario history. um, Shrouzer and Super Paper Mario. I'm not Super Paper Mario. Shrouzer and Partisan Time, and then Dark Bowser, which was kind of like the whole joke about there's always an evil version of the evil thing.
Yeah, and I do feel like they took a lot of inspiration from like Godzilla and like Power Ranger, like basically Sentai stuff. Because like you said, even fusing together, that's very much like a concept that shows up a lot in media. And getting bigger and then having to fight the huge enemy after you fight the smaller version of the enemy.
Yeah, or actually, speaking of like Power Rangers, like or Super Sentai, there's actually a boss fight in Mario RPG, which is literally just a parody of Super Sentai.
Yeah.
With the Axum Rangers, and I think there's a Ninja Turtles parody in Paper Mario as well, with the Koopa brothers.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, Bowser's Inside Story. Honestly, if that's where Mario RPGs ended,
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been a perfect conclusion.
Mm.
Because then everything from here is where things get really weird.
Yeah.
But I think before we get into that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Woo!
And we're back.
Hi.
Hey.
Long time no chat.
Yeah.
So, continuing on. So, we've already been over what's considered like the golden era of Mario RPGs in a lot of ways. So now we get into the second half of the Mario RPG series, where especially, well, one half of the series, yes. The other half, not so much, but it has its own problems.
Mm.
So the next major Mario RPG to be announced was Paper Mario. At the time, it was simply just known as Paper Mario 3DS. So now the console series is making its way onto handhelds.
There you go.
Because of course. So Mario 3DS was interesting because when it was first shown off, it looked really awesome. Like it looked like it was going to be like a return to like Thousand Year Door style because Mario had like these party members and it looked like it was going back to the old turn-based combat style. Then it kind of just went quiet for a while and we didn't see anything about it until it eventually returned as Paper Mario Sticker Star.
Huh.
And
you don't look happy about that.
I don't know what to say about it.
Sticker Star is a very controversial game. Like, Sticker Star literally changed everyone's opinions on Super Paper Mario. Just by existing.
Oh, God.
So, what happened was, there's a lot of debates about what exactly happened with the development of Sticker Star. Supposedly, Miyamoto made a comment to the development team at Intelligent Systems that you don't have to have a big story to make a great game, which unfortunately I don't think Miyamoto's ever made an RPG in his life. So
Nope.
And Miyamoto is a genius, but he's also not everything he says should be listened to.
Mm.
So basically what happened with Sticker Star was, I don't know if it was his comments that determined this or they were literally forced to do this, but essentially all the storyline elements were essentially cut. All original characters were removed, and the game was nothing but generic Toads. Bowser no longer talks, so the one of the best aspects of Mario RPGs is gone.
Yeah.
And the RPG elements themselves are essentially pointless. So combat in the game now has this sticker system where specific stickers are used to basically, you need certain stickers to beat certain bosses or else you're going to be stuck there forever.
Oh boy.
Rather than grinding for experience, you just want to find the right stickers to use to get past every boss super easy. And it's just such a boring game. Like there's literally like nothing that I only played it once and I was like, that was the biggest struggle I've ever had. I never want to play this again.
Oh, wow.
Like, why would you take like all of the good supporting characters away from Mario and make a game about it? You know, it's I don't know.
Especially if you're gonna make the entire cast nothing but toads, at least give them some sort of dialogue, because the dialogue in this game was so generic. Like
Mm.
it was literally like the "Welcome to Conaria" or like that. Like
Yeah.
there was no variety, nothing, no Easter eggs. It had a good soundtrack. I'll give it that. They did a good job there.
Mm.
The graphics look great because they made the game look like papercraft, which was kind of cool.
Mm.
But other than that, like this game is bad.
Oh
I was
no.
so disappointed. Like I had at this point, I had never played Paper Mario because I just didn't have the consoles,
Mm.
and I had a 3DS, and so this game was gonna come out. And I remember one of my friends was like, "Don't
Oh,
bother." He was
oh
just like, "Don't
no.
bother," and I was like, "No!" So I never got it even.
Oh.
I got it on a discount in like a bargain bin at GameStop.
$5 or something. Yeah.
I think it was like 10. I was like, okay, sure. And then I played. I was like, yeah.
This wasn't worth the
No,
$10.
it wasn't
I
worth
want
it.
my money back.
Glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't buy this one day one.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's funny though is during this whole time, this started a weird shift at Nintendo where like everyone was like super paranoid about like everything now.
Mm.
And this was also during like kind of Nintendo's slump years because this was like the Wii U was not doing great. The 3DS had finally started to pick up, but it was still struggling a little bit.
Mm.
And so then not Paper Mario and Luigi Dream Team gets announced. And I always laugh because I remember the first reveal trailer was literally just Luigi sleeping.
It's good
And
marketing.
but it was this really like well detailed sprite graphic that looked really nice for the time.
Mm.
And I remember it being like when I first saw it, I'm like, that looks I didn't know it was a Mario and Luigi game yet. I was just like, that looks very Mario and Luigi esque, but I can't tell if that's what they're going for. And then they cut to the trailer and I see Alpha Dream. I'm like, oh, are we finally
Oh.
getting a new Mario and Luigi?
Mm.
So everyone's fears at the time were that this one was going to be ruined as well.
Oh no.
But apparently, so rumor has it, I don't know if any of this has been confirmed, but rumor has it is Miyamoto did make the same kind of comments to Alpha Dream.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've heard, Alpha Dream basically just ignored them
Hey.
and just was like, no, we're going to just do our own thing. So Dream Team, I think I had actually said it on the podcast we did before, but Dream Team is a great game, but it is also like one of the most pandering games I think I've ever played.
And
Like,
this is also like part of Year of Luigi too, right? Like
yes,
that's why Luigi is kind of such a pivotal point in the story. Who remembers Year of Luigi, guys?
cricket sound in the back.
Exactly.
What's funny is though it was the best thing to come out of the year, Luigi.
Right.
Like arguably that and maybe Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Maybe.
Crickets.
Yeah.
They're back.
Where are my Luigi fans at? Come on, guys.
New
Where
Super
are
Luigi.
you?
Dr. Luigi?
Just kidding.
Anybody? No?
Let's go back to Paper Mario, Super Paper Mario with Mr. L. That's my Luigi.
No, but so Dream Team is basically like it's exactly like what you'd expect. It feels like a proper successor to Bowser's Inside Story. I think the problem was though Bowser's Inside Story is so acclaimed that Dream Team just had a tough act to follow.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the problem I have. Oh, you were gonna say?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say because also they didn't want to make like a true sequel to it, so they kept the core ideas, right? But then they kind of lost the magic, I think, of what made Inside Story so good.
Yeah, I think to me like one of the biggest like so this game is super like fan servicey and like nostalgia filled. Like characters from like Superstar Saga are just walking around. Like the reporter from Partners in Time shows up at one point. Like all sorts of like fandom nods and like references like are all over the place. Like Popple the Shadow Thief shows up. To me though, I think the biggest loss to the series was the fact that Fawful was dead by this point.
Rest in peace.
Who is arguably the best villain in the series. Just for his like
shows up in every other game, right? Up until this point.
He was in the first one. He was a side villain in the first game. He had a cameo in the second game, and then he was the main villain of the third game. But he still stole the show in every appearance he had. By this point, though, he's long dead. And The problem is so I these games are almost 10 years old now, so I'm not worried about spoilers.
Yeah.
The problem with Dream Team is the main villain supposedly is incredibly generic, and then you end up getting like hijacked by Ganon at the end, and Bowser just becomes the villain right at the end.
Huh.
Which, I mean, okay, it kind of killed all his character development from Bowser's Inside Story, and just made him kind of generic. One continuity nod I did enjoy was the little character Starlo, who was like his little annoyance throughout the all of Bowser's Inside Story.
Annoying.
Well, she was basically yelling at him from the inside to do certain things, and he was like, "Who the hell is this? No, leave me alone." But whenever he runs into her in like Dream Team, he like hates her guts, and I'm like, that's a good continuity nod.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, though, great game, well designed, fun levels, cool combat, story. It was okay. Like that was my big problem with it.
I think it's just a hard game to follow up, at least
Yeah.
especially from our point of view. But yeah.
And then following that, then we got so back to Paper Mario. The fan base for Paper Mario is completely just in denial. Like they're like, "What's going on? Why do our games suck so bad?" And then Nintendo announces, "Guess what? There's going to be one on the Wii U. You know the Wii U, right?"
Crickets again, but
Yeah.
not for Luigi this time.
And then everyone's like, "Oh, okay, maybe they're going back to consoles. Maybe this is our hope." And then they show it off, and it's literally just Sticker Star with paint.
Oh no!
Now, I will say, as someone who has played Paper Mario Color Splash, it is significantly better than Sticker Star. The problem is, though, it's still not even close to like the level of like Thousand Year Door and Super Paper Mario.
Does it have a story at least?
It does have a story. It's still
okay.
It's still all Toads. Like it's still all Toads. Like no original
characters.
That's so unfortunate. I don't know why they would do that.
Thankfully, this time Intelligent Systems actually got to write dialogue.
Nice.
So the characters have fun dialogue, even if it is mostly Toads. The game looks amazing because it was in full HD for the time. And I will say, not as an RPG. The RPG mechanics are terrible. Because they're just Sticker Star again.
Yeah.
Only now with like color and paint gimmicks.
Yep.
The game's puzzle solving is really good. Like as a puzzle adventure game, it's not bad. As an RPG, it's incredibly mediocre.
Oh.
So it step in the right direction, but still not what the fans wanted by any means. And then we lead to probably the real peak of like Mario RPGs. We get Mario and Luigi Paper Jam.
The peak? What are you talking about?
Well, not really the peak. The foregone.
The garbage dump peak.
Yeah. The collision of two forces of nature.
Yeah. This was.
I've never heard of this. I don't remember this at all.
You and many others.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
So Paper Jam was literally a crossover between Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi.
That's stupid. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. This sounds dumb.
It's actually pretty interesting how they handled it. So
I can't wait to hear.
Literally, so we've already established that these are different universes. By the logic of Paper Jam, the Paper Mario universe is literally a book on a shelf somewhere in the Mario and Luigi universe. Because what happens is the book gets knocked over, and that's what unleashes the paper characters into the Mario and Luigi world. It is the most... Okay, that's random, but all right.
Sure.
Why not?
The problem with this game is, like all the other like the Paper Mario games before it, they weren't allowed to make original characters this time around, which really stinks. What we did get, though, was we got a lot of interesting character dynamics because we got to have Paper Bowser meet Mario and Luigi Bowser. And they steal the show. Like, they are literally the reason to play this game. We get all the Kooplings again, and they all have fleshed out personalities, which is kind of cool. And they also get to meet Bowser Jr., which is neat. And then we get it's the same old like Mario and Luigi gameplay, although now we have Paper Mario as a third party member, although he's more of a glorified item, I guess you could say. Like he's not really a playable character. He's kind of like a side character that just joins into the fights in a sense.
Does he still attack and stuff, or is he
Yeah,
just not controllable? Okay.
he attack. You can use him in combat, but in the field, he's more of a glorified like item for like puzzle solving.
Oh, poor Paper Mario.
I don't even think Paper Luigi's in the game. I think they just forgot about him.
You're the Luigi's barely passed, and all of a sudden, what happens?
Yeah.
He's gone.
They realized, like, what an ideal that was. Moving on.
The year of Luigi was such a colossal failure that I feel like Nintendo just gave up on the poor guy afterwards. But yeah, so Paper Jam itself. What's really funny about this game was I remember it being announced, and then just suddenly it was out, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
I don't remember this game at all. But I'm gonna buy it anyways because I'm a Mario and Luigi fan, and I played it once and didn't finish it, and then finally finished it like a year ago. Because I think at the time of our last podcast, I hadn't finished it.
Yeah, and even like what Alex just did before, that was exactly what happened when you and I were doing the podcast. I was like looking at the games and I was like, what is Paper Jam? Like I didn't even remember it existing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. I got to read up on that.
It's really funny too, but what's sad is like this game was like really the start of like the Mario and Luigi series' like decline in sales.
Oh.
Because Dream Team did not sell nearly as well as Bowser's Inside Story. Granted, Bowser's Inside Story was like just that well received of a game.
Yeah.
And then Paper Jam sold okay, but it like was nothing compared to Dream Team. So then any logical company that's struggling decides we're just going to remake old shit.
Oh boy.
But granted, the game they remade really needed a remake.
Yeah.
And that was Superstar Saga. And what's fun about the Superstar Saga remake was it basically like it updated all the mechanics and just redid the graphics and refined the music a little to honestly make it probably the definitive like way to play the game, and made it relatively available for any fan to really pick up at the time, which was really nice because I mean the game was probably 10 years old at that point, and like Game Boy Advance stuff is not easy to find.
Yeah, even more. I think 13 years old or something like that.
Yeah, it's getting up there in age. I mean, Bowser's Inside Story is over 10 years old now.
Yeah.
It's getting close to 20 years old. Yeah. Anyways. You were saying, though?
I was going to say, are you trying to say that the amiibo functionality was not a selling point of this game? No, I'm just kidding.
I was really sitting here thinking, like,
3DS and amiibos, right? I mean,
I was sitting here thinking it had amiibo functionality.
It claims it did. I looked into it, but I was like,
oh.
Yeah.
It also adds a side story that's completely pointless and stupid.
Really?
That Bowser's Minions thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
It seems like it's a full game, but what the heck is it?
It's literally you just watch a bunch of cutscenes and then like some like battles happen. It's supposed to be like explaining what the minions were doing while Bowser was having his midlife crisis in that game. And I think the minions in that game are supposed to be like the three distinct ones from Bowser's Inside Story, like the one with like the bucket on his head or whatever.
Oh yeah. That's cool then.
It was an interesting thing because then in this game's successor, the Bowser's Inside Story remake, basically.
Oh, so they didn't do Partners in Time.
No, because no one likes Partners in Time.
Womp womp.
They decided to remake a game that didn't need a remake because that's how remakes tend to go.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about this, right? That it was like the worst selling game on the 3DS or like all time.
Not on the 3DS, but it's like the worst selling Mario game of all time.
Wow.
And it's because it was really like it's one of the primary examples of like who asked for this.
It's such a late release too for 3DS. It's like
because the
one
Switch
generation later. Yeah, like DS to 3DS, it's like okay, GBA to 3DS. Okay, at least you skipped a generation.
The worst thing was The
Sorry.
the 3DS was fully backwards compatible too,
Yeah.
which
Mm.
completely kind of like
You can
made
still
it.
play. You can still play
Yeah,
Bowser's Inside Story on your 3DS. But
yeah. Also, like the other than like touching up the graphics, they didn't add anything to the remake.
Oh wow. Weren't the controls worse too?
Controls were fine, but the game had
Oh,
performance issues for some reason.
oh okay. That's what I heard.
Like the original ran at 60 frames per second. This one only runs at 30. It has like
Hmm.
slowdown at random times, and
yeah,
it's
so the
just
best remake ever. They decided to update it, and they updated it too hardcore, and then
made it worse.
made it worse. Like it's like whatever.
And it also what was the other thing it had that was dumb? Well, it had another one of those mini game things for no reason.
Hmm.
What's the Bowser Jr. story? Is that a mini game?
It's the same thing. It's just like cutscenes and
Oh,
battles happen.
I'm looking at the side by sides, and honestly, I prefer the old graphics versus the new ones.
Yeah,
there you go.
I mean they're pretty, I guess, but when the game itself is inherently not much better.
Hmm.
Oh, the funniest thing too is like the game has literally no 3D effects at all.
Nah.
I mean, that late in the 3DS's life, I don't think anyone was using 3D anymore.
No.
Like
No.
So
people
you
stopped so quick.
do you remember the original 3DS had the 3D light that would flash on when the 3D
Yeah,
was on and it would turn off when the 3D was off? I'm
yeah.
pretty sure if you played the Bowser's Inside Story remake, that light is just always off
I
because
mean,
there's no 3D at all.
do you guys know anybody who actually was like a big fan of the 3D for the 3DS? Because I don't think I know a single person who actually
I
enjoyed
think
it.
I used it for the first 5 minutes, and I was like,
Yeah,
"This is dumb."
me too.
Why?
So I have a friend from another podcast that I've been talking to, and supposedly he loves the 3D. I've never
Oh.
I've never talked to him face to face though, so I don't know if he's bullshitting or not.
Okay.
I'm going to assume he's not because he seems like a nice guy and he's being genuine, but I don't know. But yeah, and sadly, this game ended up bankrupting Alpha Dream, and as we discussed in the previous podcast, the series is basically
Dead.
permanently on hiatus
Yeah.
Oh.
because who's going to pick it up?
Yeah.
But this does actually lead to a light in the tunnel kind of thing because I think when we did that podcast, uh, Origami King hadn't even been announced yet.
Mm.
Nope, I don't think so.
So Paper Mario and the Origami King.
Hmm.
All right, this one's interesting because is it better than Thousand Year Door?
No.
No. But is it better than everything that's been come out recently? Oh yeah, it is.
Hmm.
Because it's actually an RPG. It has an interesting gimmick because they have like the
Yeah.
old origami stuff. Story's actually pretty fascinating. Did you see the original trailer for the Origami King?
I think so.
It was like really surreal trailer where like Princess Peach walks out and she's like origami for no reason, and it's like really creepy and like I remember seeing that and I was like, the heck is this? Like this is dark. Like what's going on here? And they were like basically telling Mario he's got to change to become one like the rest of us, and I'm like, what is going on? And then the game comes out and I played it. I'm like, this is actually a pretty decent RPG. Like, it feels like they're finally like doing something.
Breaking through the barrier, yeah. I think like it's a really cool like direction creatively. Like the origami idea is cool because obviously paper, and then like it seems like Nintendo's finally getting on the like, okay, let's move away from JRPG style and do something creative, but not like sticker star creative or color splash creative. It's like creative that's actually fun to play and like entertaining.
Like, let's
So
respect the classics, but at the same
exactly.
time, be innovative, which is
Right.
what Origami King really did. What I find really interesting though was this is kind of a little bit of a meta thing. They were busy developing Origami King, and actually because of that, they weren't able to actually fully develop Fire Emblem Three Houses, and they had to farm it off to Tecmo Koei
Oh wow.
because
Interesting.
the majority of Three Houses was actually developed by Tecmo Koei, which is kind of funny. Ironically, they were working on Paper Mario of all things. But hey, we got 2 pretty good games out of it, so
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
complain there. Those are 2 great games. So
we got the arguably the best Fire Emblem, and we got a decent Paper Mario game again.
Yeah. Finally.
Now, those are the mainline Mario RPGs, but there's one other series of RPGs I really want to talk about, just because these things are amazing in the best, in like the dumbest way possible.
Oh boy.
So Kevin, I have to know, did you ever play Mario Golf and Mario Tennis on Game Boy Color?
I think I played a little bit of it, but I don't remember too much. But yeah, they are RPGs, right?
They're RPGs that don't even feature Mario at first. You play as these 2 little like random kids, and you're in like this golf academy, and it's like you're just kind of like you're instead of like battles, the battles are literally tennis matches in golf like games, and you go through and you like level up your stats like as you play, like you go through like the game, and then you get to this like island, like the final tournament, and then Mario just shows up and you're playing tennis with Mario. It is like the most like ridiculous thing ever, but it's like amazing.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I think I like literally just heard that from somebody in the last year, and I was like, that's amazing. So I have to go back and check them out for sure.
What's funny is the developer for those games is Camelot, who is
Yeah,
also the developer of
yeah,
Golden Sun, and they've done other things, but
yeah. They've done the Golden Sun games and a few other, I think, like GBA games or something.
but
But yeah,
before they were Camelot, they were a company known as Sonic Software Planning, and they were the creator of the
hey,
Shining. They were the creator of the Shining series for for Sega. Like they did a
that
Shining
is
Force and stuff,
nice.
which is kind of funny. It's like that
Makes
explains where
sense,
it explains where the RPG mechanics came from,
right?
which is pretty cool. And then they also did 2 on the Game Boy Advance, which were also RPGs. There's just something funny about like you're just playing this tennis RPG, and it's like okay, and then Mario shows up and you're like, oh right, I'm playing a Mario game. Now I guess before we like wrap this up a little, I wanted to bring up, did anyone play that Mario Rabbids like tactical RPG?
I did. I played a little bit.
I played the demo kiosk. It's not bad. I'm not gonna
No,
lie.
it's not bad, and I'm glad that you brought it up too, because yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about it, technically it is a Mario RPG. Um, I'm a big fan of the strategy RPG
Hmm.
like genre in general. So
Yes.
I did enjoy my time with it. I guess I'm not as big a fan of Rabbids, so I
No, a
wasn't
lot of
really
people aren't.
into like the weird fusion between Mario and Rabbids. But
Mm.
yeah,
It was
it's a
such
fun
an.
game and it's well made.
It
So
is. Looks great. Like plays
yeah,
great. It's just such a weird crossover. Like
yeah,
Combo.
I don't know how they pulled that off, to be honest.
the rabbits are weird because stole they stole Rayman's series for a
I
while.
know, and I love Rayman. I know you like Rayman too. I love Rayman. I'm like, can't we get Rayman back?
Yeah, they legit just stole his series for like a decade, and
I
then
mean, yeah. How many more Rabbit games are there than Rayman games?
I
Because I
know.
think there's more at this point, right?
Well, the most disappointing thing to me ever too. This is off topic, but I kind of want to
Yeah.
talk about it. I mean, it is our show after all, but
Uh,
the I guess the first Rayman Raving Rabbits game, apparently that was originally developed. That began development as Rayman 4,
Hmm.
and
oh.
the whole gimmick behind it was going to be another 3D platformer like Rayman 2 and 3, and the villain of the games was going to be the rabbits.
Hmm.
Mm.
But then at some point, they just kind of scrapped it and just made it a party game
Yeah.
that took over the series for like a decade.
Yeah. And I do have to say, at least it ended up as an RPG, transition from somehow from party game to strategy RPG. So I'll take that.
Yeah,
Take that as a win.
and then Rayman got to have a 2D revival, which for a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
while, anyways. Other than that, though, I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure there wasn't any other Mario RPGs. Those are the only ones I can really
Hmm.
think of.
Mm.
Yeah, because it's funny. This list doesn't even like mention the Mario golf games because those are so obscure.
I think not a lot of people know about that.
Mm.
So
Well, it's because they think of it. They kind of think of it like when they think Mario Golf, they think the N64 game before the Game Boy Color game of all things.
Yeah, and sometimes with like game genres, you would still classify it probably as like a sport game because it's tennis, right? But it's not actually tennis. So
Yeah, yeah, it's
or
interesting.
golf or whatever.
Um, so I guess now to kind of recap, Mario RPGs have really been through the ringer over the years.
Yeah.
Like when I think of like RPG spin-off series of like a for like a platformer, like a franchise that's not RPG related, I feel like Mario had probably the biggest pedigree.
Mm.
Because when you really think about it, like, I mean, you look at Sonic's one attempt at an RPG, and I mean,
I was gonna ask if Sonic had one.
He does have one.
he has one, and it's not good.
Oh, is it that like really bad one we were talking about in our Sonic podcast, where it's
So-
like on the Game Boy Advance or
no, no,
something?
no. It's on
No.
the DS. It's
DS.
Oh, okay.
Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Fate.
Oh, that one. Yep, yep.
You
Okay.
know, it was hyped up to being developed by BioWare, and then BioWare just handed it off to their C team.
No.
Oops.
It has some of the most atrocious music in a Sonic game ever,
Yep.
and it ends on a cliffhanger that's never been resolved.
Yep.
Eggman won at the end.
Womp womp.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess going back to it, like honestly, like to me, the peak of the Mario RPGs is Bowser's Inside Story, followed by followed by a Thousand Year Door, and then Super Paper Mario.
Mm.
Well, actually, no. Superstar Saga, then Super Paper Mario. I guess like so. Kevin, you said your favorite is Bowser's Inside Story as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite in the Paper Mario series, or you're not really played most of those?
Thousand Year Door, I think, is the one I played the most of. But yeah, I haven't played too much of them. So
Okay. And Alex, I know the only one you've really played is Bowser's Inside Story.
Yeah. So I'll go with that one.
Nice.
I enjoyed it. It was fun.
No, it's a great game. It's
I started out with a good one.
yeah,
you started out with the perfect place to start
Yeah.
because I mean
It all goes downhill from here.
it really did, which is kind of sad. Although I do have hope for the Paper Mario series because I'm pretty sure Origami King sold very well.
I gotta play
think so. Yeah, I think people were just ready for it again. I think some series, you get to the end and people get really burned out, and it just takes like that next entry into the series to really get people into it again.
Yeah,
so.
it was very very refreshing, I should say, after just all the quote unquote poor games that we had for a while there. But yeah, I have hopes for that series. I want to have hope for Mario and Luigi, even though I don't see it coming.
R.I.P. Alpha Dream. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't see. This is funny to me, especially because Nintendo had made that comment when people complained about Color Splash, saying that Mario and Luigi is the RPG series and Paper Mario is the experiment series.
No.
Well, now what are they going to do? But yeah. So I guess to wrap it up, do you want to plug anything before you go?
Yeah, so I just want to plug. I'm actually going to more plug my YouTube, I think, which is Shnickerman, Shnickerman. I post a lot of videos on there, and the direction I'm kind of going is actually like video essays where I'm going to kind of look at different video games histories. So like Camelot, for example, is one I'm probably going to do eventually. Big fan of Golden Sun. So they're basically going to be kind of like mini podcasts, and I'll probably cross post those to my podcast, Gaming with Passion. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I want to just thank you both for having me on. I had a fun time, and yeah.
Sorry, I kind of just like went off on the mic, just talking over everybody.
It's all good.
I have a tendency.
You get used to it.
I like to talk history with friends, even though I don't let them talk that much.
Oh God!
You're like, well, let me just finish this point. No, I got it. I totally get it.
No, but I'll definitely put those links in the description so everyone can find your stuff.
Yeah,
Cool, thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. But anyways, guys, once again, thank you for joining us on the Gaming Collecting Podcast. The Gaming Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're made on Anchor Podcast, and you can follow us on all the social media like Twitter, Instagram, Good Pods, and the episodes will eventually come out on YouTube. Now that we have a place, I can finally start getting those out again.
That's what he says. Will he?
I have a lot to catch up on. But anyways, guys, we will see you all next time.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.